You have probably all heard about the suspension of popular shop teacher Mr. Hill and
Oh,
his
goodness.
disqualification for Substitute Teacher of the Year. And in protest, I, Peggy Hill, have decided to take my name off the ballot. Instead, I will run as Mrs. Hank Hill.
This lady. All right, welcome back to another School Principal Reacts. This is Brandon, a school principal from the U.S. state of Georgia, and I'm watching today another episode of King of the Hill. This one is one that, again, you all have recommended, and it's called The Little Horrors of Shop, meaning like the shop class, even though it's not really called that anymore. I mentioned that on an episode of Ned's Declassified, but I see Hank here, and I think just based on what little I've read in the comments and the plot summary that I couldn't help see when I started this episode was that Hank does some teaching or substitute teaching or something like that. I see him with a pair of pliers here with a little tie. I'm guessing that's it, but I don't know anything more than that. If you're not a current subscriber to the channel and you enjoy my content, please do me a favor and click the button below to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Let's get into it. Love the intro.
20 biology quizzes and not one smiley face. The best therapy for my back will be lifting my third straight Substitute Teacher of the Year award high above my head in triumph.
And that's right. I think Peggy is a substitute teacher, either teacher or substitute teacher. I'm guessing she's a sub.
I'm sorry, Hank. The school board will not authorize the funding for a substitute shop teacher. Heck, we can't even afford to fix a dent in the gym floor where Coach had his little fit.
You know,
What?
I remember a fella in my 8th grade shop class. Pretty handy with a coping saw. Nice guy. His name was Carl Moss.
And I remember this guy from the previous episode that I reacted to. And yeah, I did skip a bit. Basically, Hank has to go on his vacation leave or something, and he's going to try to substitute teach here. But Principal Moss here, who is horrible, one of the worst principals from any show that I've reacted to on this channel, he says something about the school board won't fund a substitute teacher. Typically, the school does just have a list and pays them either all the same or pays them slightly differently, but depending on their qualifications. But some districts just pay them all the same. It just depends. Other school districts nowadays especially don't hire them directly, but go through various third parties that provide substitute teachers for school districts, and they have a contract with them. But some schools still do it this way where they're hiring them directly. But the amount that the school district actually has to pay out doesn't really change because it depends on how many times teachers are out. It doesn't depend on how many substitute teachers they have available to them. I'm guessing he eventually does get hired somehow. Let's see.
What happened to him?
Got married, had kids, responsibilities. Things change, Hank.
Well, one thing hasn't changed. Kids need shop.
Well, who's going to
Okay.
teach them?
The only man handier with the coping saw than Carl Moss.
Jack Shermer?
What? Jack was all flash. I coped circles around me. I'll teach shop, and I'll do it for free.
Okay,
for
Hank.
free.
With your wife already a substitute teacher here, just keep the bitterness and the he said, she said out of my school.
What?
We have a very good marriage.
All right, so I guess they're going to allow Hank to teach for free, which I don't know how you get away with that. But then again, based on the last episode that I reacted to, Principal Moss has no problem doing illegal, unethical things, and he's going to just allow Hank to work there for free and teach the shop class, even though he's not actually hired as a substitute teacher. And he would have to go through a background check, and typically there's at least a training course that you have to go through or a certain number of classes. I'm not sure. It's different in every state what you have to do. I think in Georgia the minimum requirements is just a little 2 or 3 day course, and it's actually really, really easy. A lot of school districts, though, have additional requirements. In other words, some school districts will say you have to have a certain amount of hours of college, or some districts even require a full-blown degree, but the state minimum is just high school diploma over a certain age and take the appropriate training course and go through a background check and those sorts of things.
Which brings
All
us
right, here
to
we go.
sanitaria. Everybody looks pretty clean.
What? This is
Guess
horrible.
we could empty the trash.
Bobby. This is horrible.
Son, could you stand up a minute?
Oh, he's going to fix it. Okay, here we go. So this was pretty awful to begin with, and even Bobby, his own son, is like, come on, you need to do something or hurry it up somehow. And I have heard of teachers or substitute teachers that have their own child in their own class, which always makes it just a little bit more interesting. I have seen that a few times, but I'm guessing that he's going to fix this squeaky stool and he's going to somehow make it fun, and then they're going to get going actually learning some things. Let's see.
Cool. Is that a switchblade?
No, it's a multi-tool. But it does have a saw.
What else does it have?
Well, it has a file, a serrated sheep's foot blade, a lanyard ring, you know, the usual. And for our purposes now, a Phillips head.
Hey, do that thing again.
What thing? So they're impressed just because of that, just because of this little tool that whips out, and they're like, oh, wow. I think he's going to have a little bit more than this to get this class interested, more than just a few minutes, but maybe I'm wrong, but let's see.
Hey, what were you kids working on before they made this a study hall?
Good question.
Birdhouses.
Let's see them.
And, you know, I do remember either making something like this or seeing other people that made something like this. And not to say that little projects like this aren't still done in certain classes, but it's not going to be called shop or wood shop. I mentioned this back on one of the first episodes of Ned's Declassified, and many of you said, yeah, it is called shop, and it depends on your state as far as what the courses are actually called. It's different from state to state, but I have not heard that term in real life in a long, long time. I have heard all about construction courses, different agriculture mechanics courses where you might use some tools and build things along with the construction, but not wood shop. I have not heard that in a very long time.
Okay, Joseph. Well, I don't see any reason your father needs to find out about this. You know,
I thought he was going to give some good feedback, which is good for him to give these kids feedback, but instead he says, I don't see any reason your father should know about this, as if to say it's so bad, like you don't want to embarrass yourself by showing this to your dad. Hopefully he'll at least teach them something here in a minute.
birds can build their own houses. They're called nests. But I've never seen a bird build a boomerang or a dartboard.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, put on your goggles.
Okay, safety.
Now,
that's good.
Remember, everybody, goggles might make you look cool, but they're also part of proper safety attire.
Well, I like this, actually. I do really like this. So I mentioned a couple of times, both in Ned's with the wood shop and also in chemistry classes, there's going to be a lot of safety instruction before the kids even touch anything, and the kids' parents are probably going to have to sign some sort of waiver of some kind, but there is a lot of safety demonstrations and instruction before these kids really do anything that's even remotely dangerous. So he's kind of taken the right approach here. I'm a little surprised.
Huh. Well, that's strange. We don't seem to have a bevel gauge.
I bet you've got more tools than the school does.
And I bet the cost-benefit yahoo who decided this shop could do without a bevel gauge has never even tried to test a bevel, much less a chamfer.
Yeah,
Okay.
the big yahoo.
Chemistry.
When we take the rose out of the liquid nitrogen, it becomes as brittle as the most delicate crystal wine goblet. The exciting thing about the laws of nature
Oh, no.
is that, well, you never know what to expect.
Just stop. Oh, okay. And she should have just stopped the first time and said most of the time it would have done this or would have done that or whatever. She didn't need to push it quite that far if it didn't quite work out. The main thing is the students learn and then she throws it out the window and breaks a window, that would be a pretty big deal. She would be in a lot of trouble for that.
Nice sanding, Joseph. Boy, this napkin holder is smooth enough to hold even the finest napkin.
Your mom's gonna love it.
You see, this is why we do shop. Not to be more popular or to get into college, but to sand and drill and chisel things for our moms. Well, hey there, Peggy.
For our moms. It just, I don't know, it just sounds a little weird.
Hank, it's Mrs. Peggy Hill in front of the voters. Or
Voters.
2-time substitute of the year, Mrs. Hill. Yes, that sounds more natural. Didn't you hear the bell ring? In 2 minutes, these students will be tardy somewhere. Did anyone show you how to fill out a hall pass?
No, but I made my own rubber hall pass stamp.
That's pretty cool, and this does bring up one point. There are a lot of teachers, substitute teachers and new teachers, that know a lot about a particular content, and that's why they're needed. But it does take some time to learn the day-to-day realities of teaching and how the school really runs. Peggy does have a point here. If the bell rings, you can't just hold students back. They do have other classes to go to, but he's got his little stamp here. A lot of schools do not allow teachers to do that, and they can get in some trouble by just holding students back. I know I've done several reactions where a teacher will say, no, the bell doesn't dismiss you, I do. And you really can't push that too far, because then you're running into another teacher's time and making students late. It's pretty good, though.
Hank, what is going to happen when that falls into the wrong hands?
Well,
I guess you don't have a stamp to answer that, do you?
Say, Carl, I hope you don't mind. I jotted down some basic supplies we need in shop.
We don't have money for all these fancy teaching aids, like wood.
Fancy teaching aids, wood, for the wood shop. Yeah, I think that's kind of a necessity.
You know, the Carl Moss I knew wouldn't
Give it a rest, Hank. All parents care about these days is zero-tolerance drug policies and literacy. Why can't Johnny read? Why can't Johnny read? God, that gets old.
But Carl...
This guy's horrible. He's like, man, that gets old. Having kids not be able to read, yeah, that's pretty fundamental. I mean, literacy skills do kind of touch everything and are extremely important. And he's like, oh, that gets old. Yeah, parents should be complaining about that at this school.
Shop is the foundation of all learning.
No,
and
it's
I tell
not.
you what, a youngster with a tool in both hands has no hands left to do drugs.
They'll just put the tools down if they want to do the drugs bad enough.
That's so bad. Hank said that shop is the foundation of all learning. Not quite. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they will learn some valuable skills, but the foundation for all learning, not quite, Hank.
Joseph must have used the last piece of maple for his napkin holder.
I wonder if it was like this teaching shop during World War II.
I don't know.
You know what helped us win that war? People here at home made do with what they had. Like when Clark's chair was squeaking, we all pitched in and fixed it. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. This school is one big project waiting to be fixed. Anyone notice that broken window in the chemistry class?
Okay.
We could all bring some tools from home to fix that window or rehang the letters that blew off the school last winter.
And no one's gonna make fun of us for going to Landy Middle School no more.
Landy, because at the beginning there were some letters missing from the school, and he said whatever it would be without the letters Landy. He said no one's going to make fun of us for going to Landy Middle School anymore. That's pretty funny. Okay. So it's good that they're wanting to help, but it is a huge liability having them do this. This is not good. If any of these kids gets hurt in any way, if I'm the parent, I'm going to be pretty upset. Like, yes, it is woodshop class, but they're not supposed to be doing maintenance in the school and repairing the school. That is the school's responsibility. Most schools do have maintenance personnel that do this kind of stuff. You can't have kids just going in there with power tools fixing things. You just can't.
Who brought a cordless power sander?
I'm on it.
See you tomorrow back in class, Mr. Hill. Remember, I called the drill press.
Okay then, Susie.
Yeah, and this is going to be a problem. Hopefully it gets resolved soon, meaning that Peggy is used to being like the best substitute teacher and has won awards, and she thought this student was waving at her, but really she was waving at Hank, and I think she's getting pretty jealous and is not going to take this very much longer. I'm wondering how it's going to get resolved. I assume it's going to get resolved by Hank going back to his regular job, but let's see.
I think they might like me. More important, though, I think they might like shop.
Oh, that's just wonderful, Hank. But remember, just because they're liking it does not mean they are learning it.
Hey, Mr. Hill.
Oh, and P.S., watch out for the brown-nosers.
What?
If history teaches us anything, it is that an informal pre-election vote or straw poll favors the proven winner or the incumbent.
And this brings up another interesting point. A lot of people who are substitute teachers really are very flexible. You have some that say, well, I only want to teach this subject or this particular grade level, but many people just do it all. They do pre-K all the way through 12th grade and a variety of subjects. So you notice that Peggy was in a biology class or no, some sort of chemistry class, I think, and now she seems to be in a history class. That is what happens. It can be different from one day to the next.
Substitute Teacher of the Year straw poll, the incumbent would be me, Mrs. Peggy with a Y Hill. Why should a straw poll favor the incumbent? Good question. My theory is voting for a winner is a way for you to feel more popular,
Oh, my
too.
goodness.
Okay, now, please pass your ballots forward so Sean can count them.
Oh. And that's really problematic, having a kid up on a ladder using some sort of, I don't know what that was really, but some sort of electric tool up there on a ladder. Really, really not a good idea at all. And now she's obsessed here. Peggy's obsessed with this Substitute Teacher of the Year award and doesn't seem to care about anything else.
3 votes for Laura Croft, whoever the heck
What?
that is. 4 votes undecided, okay. 4 votes for Mrs. Peggy Hill. I thank you. And 7 votes for Mr. Hank Hill.
Uh-oh.
Okay, if the locker room's all regrouted, why don't you go to the cafeteria and work on those dimmer switches?
It says don't throw tools. I just noticed that. Yeah, I've never seen a sign like that. I have never been in a place where that was really necessary as far as throwing a hammer. That could really hurt someone. Usually in a class like this, there's not going to be any handling of tools until there's a lot of safety instruction and some parent consent forms returned, and I've never quite seen a sign quite like that. That seems really awful, but let's see what happens next.
Mr. Hill, come quick. Something's happened.
Oh,
To Bobby.
so gross.
See?
Hank, I caught your boy carrying these chisels and screwdrivers and this toothy, pointy...
Keyhole saw. They're tools. Carl, you used to know that.
Well, maybe. But according to school board's zero tolerance policy, anything that can be used as a weapon is a weapon. Hey, my hands are tied. If I showed even a little bit of tolerance, we couldn't call it zero tolerance. I'm sorry, Hank. I'm going to have to suspend your boy.
He didn't do...
So Principal Moss is technically correct, but he should know that Hank here has been having all the students just go around with various tools and fix things. He needs to put a stop to that because it's not as if Bobby brought this thing from home or whatever, but Hank, the substitute teacher, gave it to him, authorized him to walk around with all these things and try to repair various things around the school. Really, he should be talking to Hank and maybe not tolerating it, but maybe say, okay, Hank, you can't teach here anymore because we can't have kids going around doing all sorts of dangerous work around the school. I don't really agree with this. I do agree that Principal Moss needs to do something, but not just suspend Bobby. What about all the other students? And what about Hank's practice of just having kids go around? He started out okay by getting the kids involved and having the kids be a lot more active and engaged in the class, but then he took it way too far by having them handle very dangerous tools and go to various places in the school and make repairs. So I do not agree here, but let's see how this moves forward.
I told all my students to bring tools in.
Well, that cuts down on the paperwork. I'm going to have to suspend you. Emily!
Yeah?
Escort Mr. Hill off school grounds.
What?
Don't you touch me.
What is this girl? And I do remember her from the previous episode. I don't know why he would tell her to escort Hank out. He would just say, please leave. That's it. And yeah, that is sort of the right call. You would just say, Hank, you're done. You're done. Despite the fact that he was good in some ways, he really just took it way too far. And yeah, that tool that Bobby had did look extremely dangerous. Yeah, that probably was the right call there. Uh-oh. This is not going to be popular.
Dad, can we borrow your tools?
I wanted to finish this cutting board for my mom's birthday.
And we've got no place to put our napkins.
Well, okay. But you'll have to take turns. I only have 3 circular saws.
What about Sanders?
I have enough sanders for everyone.
Wow. Yeah, Bobby was right, I guess. He probably does have more tools than the school. And so they come over to his house to finish. And yeah, I guess technically they can do that. Hank is not a school board employee. I don't think he ever really was. He was just being allowed to go up there and teach for free, which was also extremely shady. But now they're just coming over to his house, which, yeah, I mean, I guess technically they can do that. I wouldn't really want to be responsible for a bunch of other people's kids at my house using power tools, but I guess he's going to allow it because they liked what they were doing in Hank's class so much. But let's see how this ends here.
By now, you have probably all heard about the suspension of popular shop teacher Mr. Hill and his disqualification for substitute teacher of the year.
That's so unfair.
He lost his job.
I could not agree more. And in protest, I, Peggy Hill, have decided to take my name off the ballot. Instead, I will run as Mrs. Hank Hill.
This lady is absolutely obsessed. I have never seen anybody so fixated on something. So she's now trying to be supportive of Hank. She's got this nice photo of him on his lawnmower. And she goes so far to want to say that she won this substitute teacher award, which I've never even heard of. I've never heard of anything like that. But she wants to win so badly that now she's saying she's running as Mrs. Hank Hill. Just a shameless ploy to get votes, and she doesn't care anymore. She just cares about winning this award, which makes no sense, really. I don't understand it, but let's keep going.
You might want to use a router instead of that power drill for your grease moat there.
Can we do a whole unit on routers next week in class?
Well, good idea, Susie, but it's not my class anymore.
Yeah?
I could fight for reinstatement, but I got to get back to the propane game on Monday.
Yeah, true.
But that shouldn't stop you from pursuing your own dreams of wood, plywood, pressed fiberboard, and if you've got the talent, metal.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of Mr. Chopsaw from Ned's Declassified, where everything is wood no matter what. And that is true, what he said. He, I thought, only got 2 weeks off from his propane job, and so regardless of what happened, he would have to return to his full-time employment.
You see, shop doesn't have to happen in any special place, as long as it's well lit and the outlets are grounded. Because shop is bigger than any classroom or garage or stupid policy that makes tools illegal. It's in our hearts.
Okay.
Okay, let's sweep up.
And Hank is kind of right here. He mentions a stupid rule that makes tools illegal. It's not that, but you are talking about typically high school students. I mentioned in Ned's Declassified, I haven't seen a lot of middle school shop classes or construction, but I suppose those do exist in different places. I'm just not used to them. But kids do sometimes horseplay and play around, and power tools are dangerous if you're not taking it seriously. So for that reason, any use of such tools are usually very, very strictly controlled and include a lot of safety instruction and parental consent or waivers. before something like that is used. And the way Bobby was just carrying it around the school, you would never be able to do that in a million years. So that's what he means by a stupid rule that makes tools illegal or whatever. But let's keep going. I think we're getting toward the end here.
Now, before we meet our new assistant swim coach, I'd like to announce the winner of this year's Substitute Teacher of the Year award.
Okay.
Mrs. Hank Hill.
What?
Wow, get a little trophy. And again, I've never heard of this, and if you were going to give an award like this out, I don't think it would be like a golden cup like that. That looks more like a sports championship trophy or something like that. I've never seen this before.
Gosh, thank you. Oh, who would have thought that I would win 3 years in a row?
You?
My speech.
Your what?
Look, it's Mr. Hill.
Oh, no.
All right, shut!
All right, well, that was the episode. Peggy won the award after all. That one was a pretty good one with Hank teaching shop. And I have met people like that, by the way, people who are very, very, very passionate about a particular subject and try to teach it. And sometimes it works out great, and other times they are so fixated on their content they don't remember, hey, I am a teacher of children and I do have to go by certain rules no matter how I may feel about my content that I'm teaching. But I enjoyed that one. Thanks for the recommendation from you all. Please keep them coming if you would. I do read every single one of those. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. I do appreciate it. I'm going to leave the video here. I hope to see you on the next video. Thank you for watching until the end, by the way. I'll see you on the next one here on School Principal Reacts. Thanks for watching.